Hi guys, it's Matt with SandFlippers. I am doing part 2 to the video I was doing, my last video, which was how to run comps on land, even in floodplains. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely watch that video, but we're doing part 2 today and why I walked. Because at the end of this video, I basically am saying, you know what, I'd be willing to pay $20,000 for that property, whether it be at a tax deed sale or, you know, through a off-market deal, direct offer to a seller. So I did put the property under contract for $20,000 and I did not open escrow yet. What I like to do after that is I call the county offices and I do further digging before I open up escrow. So once I got the property under contract, I did call the county offices and they directed me to their GIS, you know, their website where this really was the site that she was so awesome, and you'll find out that most county people are so willing to help you when you just ask a lot of good questions. So first thing I wanted to find out is, does this have legal access? And that's one of the first questions you want to ask is this a public road? Are you going to need to get an easement from a neighbor to get to the property? Obviously, that's going to reduce the value or require more work. We always like to buy property on legally accessible roads. We went to Site Planner. And here we go. Okay, so the first thing we checked out was, again, legal access. And if we go to the legend here, we can see local access roads county maintained, which is a solid white line, which is exactly what we want to see. So there's our property right here. So let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit so we can see the floodplain again. We bounce back over to id.land. Looked like it was covering half of it. We figured about half. When we use the county maps, we find out it's a little bit more severe than that when we zoom out. So again, here's our property right here. You can see an id.land. This is why it's always good to check out the county sites. You know, we're over here, and in reality, we find out that it's actually less than an acre of non-flood zone properties. So that definitely is going to affect the value, and that $20,000 figure we came up with on the last video. And I'm just showing you my process that I go through. We had enough information before to move forward with putting it under contract, but then when we dive deeper, as we're going through this on the phone with the county offices, we're doing this together. She says, you might want to check out, you know, there's been some areas that have hazardous geological area that you might want to check out because it requires more of engineering approvals. You've got to, septic's going to be harder to get perk tests approved. Everything's going to be more expensive, more of a headache. And, you know, what more do you need to say than geological hazardous area? That's not something a buyer really wants to see, right? But when we click on that, and you can see by their legend, if it's in yellow, it's a geologically hazardous area. So this was definitely the biggest red flag. First, we're finding out the floodplain covers a lot more than we anticipated. And now we find out that really the only buildable spot that's not in the floodplain is in a geological hazardous area. So when we go back to id.land, and again, she just informs me, you're going to need to contact an engineer, find out what's involved to get this cleared, and it's a big deal. At this point, I'm just like, okay, we're pretty much done with this deal. We're walking. Went over back to id.land. Click on that, you can see right then and there, doesn't look too good, does it? So after doing a little bit more digging and finding out that rock outcrop Moscow complex is one of the most challenging soil classifications you'll ever see on a residential land deal. These are the reasons why we walked from this property. I hope this helped.